Just a quick introduction to what we'll be taking a look at today. So again, today we're going to be looking at GRAITEC Advanced Workshop, but specifically what is new in our 2024 release. So there's been many features added, many settings and specificities for each local installation. But what we're going to take a look at are 5 of the major features that have been added for Advanced Workshop Steel. So before actually diving into those 5 major features, for those who are new to Advanced Workshop Steel or have never seen the solution, I'll give a quick introduction so you get an idea of what this solution does in the first place, and then we'll take a look at once again those 5 different new features for this new build. So first off, what is Advanced Workshop Steel? Advanced Workshop is an ERP/MES solution, so Enterprise Resource Planner, and it has specific modules in it, MES modules, what we call them, for the manufacturing execution system side of the business. In short, it's a full vertical solution meant to manage all processes within a steel fabrication shop. So if we look at the BIM cycle and we want a visual aid on where this software would sit in the construction, in a construction project. Here, for a construction project, there's many different steps from programming to conceptual design, detailing, design, analysis, documentation, fabrication, construction, etc. So where we sit here is in the fabrication space. Today, we're focusing on an Advanced Workshop Steel, but we do have derivatives of the solution to accommodate both rebar and precast as well. But again, we're going to be focusing on the new features in the steel solution. Another aspect that Advanced Workshop Steel can manage is time and cost simulations. So not only is it managing the process of fabrication, but we also apply times and cost coefficients to basic operations or all operations that would be associated with the project. And we can also manage costs for site installation, rental equipment, and things of these types. So we can provide time and cost simulation for the project, construction logistics, and traceability on the documentation as well. So again, it is not meant to just manage a portion of the steel fabrication business, but everything from sales all the way to invoicing. And one of the main benefits of Advanced Workshop Steel is that we have a mechanism to be able to enable companies to import metadata from CAD platforms or BIM solutions into our software. So in short, once the model is designed, detailed, you can actually leverage that metadata, import it all into a customer order or even to a quote to then manage production. This slide represents globally what we can manage within the platform. And it's essentially all steps in the process, okay? So from customer inquiry, we receive the steel data. This can be in the form of PDF drawings, of course, the project contract, things of this type, delivery data. And then within our solution, you can actually input customer information, create the job site, to then create quotes or go directly to customer orders to be able to import all that data. Once we've imported the data, we can then manage stock, procurement, and accessories for the project. So what this means is, of course, once we've imported that data, we need to validate if, of course, we can actually produce the assemblies. In some cases, they might be too large, or you just might not have the equipment to be able to accommodate those assemblies, and you might need to subcontract. And of course, you need to validate that if you can manage them in your shop, if you have the necessary stock to produce the components. If not, then you would go ahead and purchase them. Then, of course, we can manage production. So we could set up all workstations, of course, have the machines taken into account per workstation, and even manage things like capacity of your workshop. So if you're taking on many projects at the same time, of course, you're going to want to see the workstation's capacities, and of course, which operations can be managed by a workstation, things of this type, so that you can schedule in accordance to your actual reality. And then, of course, there's the logistics and delivery that can be managed within the solution, quality, traceability, and of course with the workforce as well. So with employees being able to work at specific workstations. And then, of course, with accounting, we can manage payments, invoices, delivery notes, and we can take it all the way to the steel delivery with truck loading and things of this type. So this is a macro overview, again, of what we can manage in the system. But one of the key variables that sets us apart from the rest is our ability to manage the data up front and be able to import the metadata into our platform. Going a little bit more into the micro, this is how we can manage the process by department. Okay, so once again, Advanced Workshop is an ERP solution. The two aspects that we don't manage are payrolls and general ledgers. Okay, so that's one thing to note. But we often enough integrate our technology with accounting solutions and other ERPs on the market, such as Sage, SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, Oracle, QuickBooks, things of this type. Our solution is a multi-architecture solution. What this means is that we can have multiple company profiles linking to the same database, multiple factories linking to a company profile, and multiple warehouses linking to each factory. So if you're a mid to large size company, we can accommodate those needs as well. Of course, with units, we manage both imperial and metric. We have many different language settings for our software, French, English, German, Spanish, etc. And we can manage multiple currencies. Now, when looking at the functionality coverage, we've divided this visually into 4 different categories. So for supply chain, technical office, production, and stock and logistics management. So under supply chain management, we can manage sales, purchasing, business margins, job sites, credit control, invoicing. In the technical office, we can manage, here we say, we call it BIM integration, but we can import metadata from many different CAD solutions on the market. We'll give an example of this later on in the presentation. Drawings, we can also manage the bill of material breakdowns in our customer orders and things of this type. For production and real-time monitoring, we can manage raw material traceability, manage remnants as well, manufacturing strategies. We have nesting modules in our solution. We can download NC files directly to machines. So there's a lot of tools in the MES portion, or the manufacturing execution system portion of our software. And then going on to stock and logistics management, there's we can manage stock by geolocation, and of course all aspects of inventory and procurement and things of this type. In terms of technology, of course, we integrate with, we can import data from Autodesk solutions as well as GRAITEC IP and other products or detailing solutions out there on the market. Detailing meaning steel detailing solutions. And we use SQL as our database. So in a simplistic view, in Advanced Workshop, what we would do is start with the customers, create the customer profiles, then create the job sites for the project. And once we've created the job site, we can then create the order and import the BIM files into that order, manage the structural elements, meaning we can manage the route optimization and see at that point if we have material in stock to produce the fabrication orders, organize the fabrication orders in alignment with the project delivery dates and shop capacities. And then we can even export the DSTV data and link it directly to the machines. So this is, again, a macro overview. But here, when we take a look at the elements, as I mentioned, there's many subtasks that you would want to do at that level to ensure that you have the material in stock to allocate to the project. And we manage all those aspects. We call those the MRP functionalities, so material resource planning functionalities of the software. And then when we take a look at the MES side of things, in order to drive data from the software to machines, we can integrate what we call touch boxes, which are essentially tablets, which can then connect directly to the machine, which will drive the data. And you can, along with the tablets, use fabrication orders to scan each and every individual component that's being processed at that point in time, so that you get live updates of the milestones in your project, but from a production standpoint. And of course, we can take it all the way down to delivery notes and invoices. So this is a very macro overview of our functionality coverage, but this is why it's much more than just a manufacturing execution system. It's really an ERP that's meant to manage the full business in one single platform and connect all stakeholders of a project to one single platform. The benefit is, of course, it gives you visibility and full control of your production. Once again, you can evaluate the time allocated to each individual operation and facilitate calculating workloads, bottlenecks in departments and things of this type. You can manage your stock with a combination of manual and, of course, automated methods with PDAs. We have applications that get installed on PDAs to facilitate scanning barcodes and even tracking stock by geolocation. We can even have post-production analysis done in the software so that you can compare the theoretical values for time allocation and cost allocation upon import of metadata of the CAD data, and compare it to the actual time spent in production with the utilization of touch boxes and PDAs while you're scanning through each step of the project. Of course, we manage production planning, and here I just put a little side note that we do have a very good link with Autodesk Advanced Steel. This is both through Autodesk's SMLX BIM file format, and GRAITEC offers another solution called the Power Pack, which docks on top of Advanced Steel, which would give users the benefit of utilizing the GTCX import feature, which is GRAITEC's native file format, and it ensures our customers that they'll be able to import Advanced Steel models at all times. So I have this slide up and I called it a single source of truth. The true benefit to having a solution that can manage all steps of the process is that you have connectivity and traceability on all actions between departments. One of the big struggles within a steel fabrication shop is knowing when a mistake was made. Typically, you would find a mistake later on, maybe hours or days after it's been done, and to find the root cause is extremely difficult. So utilizing a platform like this and having all processes connected truly gives you that traceability and visibility on what's going on at all times within your business. So that's a quick summary of the capabilities of Advanced Workshop and what it does for a business in the macro. But today we're here to discuss what is new in the 2024 release. So one of the new features that we've developed was the ability to be able to detail steel directly in a customer order. So the purpose of this new feature, there's a few different reasons why it was developed, but mainly for steel service centers, they might not necessarily have a design department. And consequently, on smaller orders, if they're not able, if their customer does not provide them with NC files, DXF files, and things of this type, they might want to detail bar elements directly into the customer order. So this feature does that. In fact, it allows the end user to select the profile types that they would like. So if it's an eye profile, as an angle, rectangular hollow section, etc., and then define the cut references, a general length. And this is pulling data directly from your SKUs. So you'll have item codes in the software, which will define costs related to all these bar elements that you would purchase from your supplier, and factors that in for cost calculation. So through this interface, you're not only defining the operations required to raw material, but in fact, it's computing the cost of how much of that bar element is consumed for the order as well. Now, this can be used for smaller projects on a whole. So if you want to bypass the design department, if you're a steel fabricator, of course, or a more traditional steel fabricator and not a service center, you can bypass the design department if you wish, if it was a small project like a skid, and just detail it directly here in the system. This can also be viewed as a tool that can be used for extras attributed to a project. So often enough, there could be a change order, and maybe you'll have to produce additional plates, shim plates or something like that to accommodate the structure. In that case, what you can do is use the steel detailing tool to add those elements to a separate customer order that would link back to the job site. So again, the benefit here is to allow the user to create parts manually without importing 3D files. You can detail while defining the criteria information for production. So the finishing standards and things of this type, you have access to the standard shape library while doing this. So of course, Advanced Workshop Steel comes with the default library steel profiles, and the local market steel profiles will be present there to select from. And automatically defines the part route while you're doing this. So of course, if you're adding cut references, those cuts or the process to shop blast, whatever criteria is being put in place will be factored in for part routing automatically. So when you go to create your fabrication orders, all this is predefined. So I'll give a quick example of this tool, but here I've listed some of the general information regarding the UI. Okay, so the interface consists of 5 independent components when we look here towards the bottom. So you'll have the generic information from the quote and order. Here you'll have a viewer just to see the geometry of the component and the modifications that are being made. You'll have a legend on the right-hand side here. And then you'll have your input field. So whatever options you decide to apply to the profile will be here towards the bottom of the screen. And then you'll have the list of operations that get displayed depending on how you're modifying the component. And in the customer order tab, you'll have an icon dedicated to this feature. So to activate the UI, you'll click on adding a steel parts manually. So let's just go into the software to give a quick example of the feature. Now here I'm going to go into the customer orders menu. And here, I'm just going to put this, copy this here towards the bottom, customer order reference. And I'm going to go over to items. And this is where you would populate the data for your customer order. Again, here we have the icon to import 3D steel models. Or files. And then here, if we click on adding steel parts manually, it'll open the UI where you can specify your components. Now here I already have one visible. This is just to show that when you open the dialog, you'll have the record of what's been applied historically to the order, manually, of course. Now here, depending on the option we select, it'll activate other parameters here towards the right-hand side for input values. Now, this is going to lead up to another feature that we've integrated where you can make modifications. I'm going to talk about that later on. But for now, all I'm going to do is select type code 1, where I'll just shorten or apply a specific length to the element as I go along. So since I already have the assembly reference B1, I'll just call this B2. And I'll suggest that this is B1001. For its single part number, I'll type in the rule as beam, and then here I can go and select the item code. Now this is pulling from again the item code database. So these are essentially your SKUs that not only contain physical aspects of the or properties of the element, the materials and such. It's also defining the length that you would purchase from your supplier. And also a fixed length that you would typically purchase. So for example, if for a specific bar element, you're always purchasing in 20-foot lengths or 30-foot lengths, you'll have those predefined in the SKUs. And then once we put in the input length of the actual bar required for the project, it'll then compile the cost in accordance to that percentage of consumption, material consumption. So here, I'll type in AISC, W, and then we'll go ahead and select the section size we want. So here I'll go ahead and select a different section size, a W12 by 14. Now here, you'll see that the item reference and material was predefined, so those are stored within the SKU. But if you wish to apply a different finishing, you can always select something different later on. Here I'm putting the coating as raw, but if we were to specify that it's galvanized later on, we can always apply an additional operation to be subcontracted, okay? So since we're purchasing this material raw, to fabricate, and then we'll expedite it for galv, we'll just get to set it at raw. Now here I'll put my standard in place. I can specify the quantity, and then the length. Let's just say these 3 bars would need to be 4 feet long, so I'm going to type in 48 inches, and now I can validate and save that element to the customer order. From here, if I wanted to see the part routing or the theoretical values applied to the operations and how it's compiled cost, I can then go to process root requirement analysis to view the operations. So once I click on process root requirement analysis, now I see the operations that have been allocated. So here we have a length cut, and here we have an additional operation for cleaning the material. So shot blasting has been applied. And if I want to see a more granular view of the operations by workstation and setup times and cost per operation, etc., I can go here to operations, see both of those, and see which company, workshop, bay, and even workstation is managing those tasks. I can also see material consumption as well. So depending on the bar element. So here, once again, I have 3 bars that are the same. So it's showing me the quantities that I would need to purchase. So it's 1 bar in short that I would need to purchase to accommodate all lengths. And then here we'll see the waste material. Now going back to the slide here, we're to take a look at now the export and import links that we've created for 2D nesting software. So Advanced Workshop does indeed have a nesting module, and we can also, we call it a 1D nesting module, so it's for bar elements specifically. However, when taking a look at the 2D nesting, which would be for planar objects or plates, we had the theoretical option for nesting, meaning we can calculate the theoretical consumption and allocate cost and operations. But when dealing with the actual geometry and exporting to machines that can accommodate cutting plates, such as burn tables, water jet machines, plasma tables, etc., we needed to be able to create links with software that link to those machines. A lot of those machine providers offer their own software to be able to nest multiple plates on 1 sheet size. And what we did here to improve the workflow was create a bidirectional link with some solutions on the market to be able to have a seamless workflow and the ability to track the remnants of the sheet that the plate was cut from, or multiple plates were cut from. So this feature is really meant to complete the loop with production and Advanced Workshop. It's to create the gap between the softwares that would connect to the machines directly and our solution. So it allows the user to ultimately export and import data from the fabrication order in Advanced Workshop to the nesting solution. And when we say nesting software, just to name a few, there's ProNest, Sigma Nest. These are very popular 2D nesting solutions on the market. And the link that we're going to display today is with ProNest. So another advantage is to keep traceability of the plate remnants. So once we import the data back in, we'll have the new item code created with the plate remnant. And of course, on future orders, we can then see that remnant in our stock and then utilize that if we wish for the next nesting when exporting data back to ProNest in this case. So we have a very highly configurable export mechanism to align with ProNest configuration. So within ProNest, if, for example, you have 4 different machines in your workshop that can accommodate or cut plates, we align with that configuration for our export mechanism. And another benefit, once again, we're completing the loop here by being able to provide you solutions for both 1D and 2D nesting, both theoretical and automated nesting with Advanced Workshop. So for this interface, we list all actions or sections according to the item groups. We list the different items available in stock, list the different remnants available in stock, and list the available stock for the nesting calculation. And if the stock is 0, you can obviously base your nesting on an infinite quantity. This means that you can base it off an infinite quantity, so it'll tell you how many plates you would need to purchase, and you can retrieve that data afterwards from ProNest after exporting and then re-importing the nesting. So then we can link it to our purchasing module to purchase the exact amount of plates required for the project. Now here I'm going to display with a video just because I don't have ProNest installed on my local machine. But here in this video, we're just going to see that we can now right-click on the fabrication order, and then we can go to exporting the external export feature. And here we could see that we're linking with a Wortman, and we have multiple plates of different thicknesses that we're going to actually export. And you can choose to select just 1 plate or 2 plates. You don't have to export the entirety of the fabrication order with the export tool. You could choose to select a specific amount of plates at that point in time. Now, once we click on export, then here we're seeing ProNest live, and you can select your material grade, your thickness. And now here we're actually seeing a remnant being utilized. So this is a remnant that was saved in ProNest. So of course, ProNest, there's different modules that you could purchase with that solution alone. And ideally, you'd want to be able to see the remnant's geometry if you were to nest plates against that remnant, okay? With that said, we can leverage both new plates and remnants depending on which version of ProNest you have. Once that's done, here we'll see the plates nested against the remnant. And then that can be exported, saved, and then expedited to the machine to be processed. And of course, here we're just showing a few different features to be able to optimize the geometry dependent on ways you can select different strategies for your plate alignments in ProNest. Now that that's done, we can go ahead to import the data back into our solution. And from there, we can actually process reports. So we're just giving a quick example of that to align with the workshop. So this report would just be to define the work that needs to be done at that said workstation. So of course, ProNest can expedite the CNC files for the machine. But if you wanted to create fabrication orders to have documents for traceability in your shop, then you can output reports based off of this data so that you can coordinate with your with the workers in the shop. So that was our bidirectional link with ProNest. And again, it's a very configurable solution. Every nesting software on the market, 2D nesting, is a little bit different and will take a specific configuration. But this UI will enable us to be able to configure multiple cases, and depending on the software solution that you have, we can explore the route to take for that specific solution. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the CAD editor, which is the steel part editing module. So this aligns with the the detailing solution that we have deployed. So of course we can add in bar elements, detail them with that UI. But if ever you have a revision to be done, of course that UI, you can change the length, you can apply different cut parameters. But we've integrated a CAD editor now to be able to take the modifications to the next level, or to be able to add in notches, copes, holes, bevels, and really take the precision to a different LOD. So the idea is going to be to start by integrating the bar elements, utilizing the detailing tool. And if you wanted to modify or even make a revision to the component, you can then access the part editor tool to make your revisions. So the benefit is this tool allows users to edit the parts in the customer order without editing and re-importing parts from the design department. So often enough, once you get to production, sometimes there could be a change order, or there can be an error made in the design process, and a quick change needs to be made. Instead of having to revise the model and re-importing, if it's a small change that needs to be made, you can utilize the CAD editor to make that quick revision. However, if of course it's a whole a balcony that needs to change size, or if columns have changed position, this would consequently impact multiple components in the project, and we encourage users to then go into the BIM model, make the revision, and then re-import the data. With that said, if it's a small little revision, if two holes need to change position on two components, for example, then the CAD editor would be a nice route to take to make that quick modification. And again, the CAD editor does enable you now to apply more modifications to a profile, such as holes. Now we have the ability to allocate not only round holes, but slotted holes, countersunk holes, countersink, counter bore holes, etc. We can apply notches, bevel cuts for plates only. Of course, we can apply shortening features for the profile. And when we say shortening features, of course, we have the ability to then after control the angles in both X and Y and in Z, in fact. And then, of course, we can add in copes to the profiles as well. So let's just go back into the platform. And here with the part that I just created a few moments ago, we'll go ahead and edit the steel element. So here, just by right-clicking on the item in the order, we'll see the edit steel element icon towards the top. And now here we're seeing the viewer here towards the bottom. If there's anything that you'd want to hide, or you wanted to change the display type of the elements, here you can choose to change the display type. You can also add in other view planes. So if you wanted to see the side elevation, plan view of the object whilst manipulating it, you can do so as well. Here you can also turn off any dimensions if you wanted to, and leave only certain dimensions active in the plan view and elevation view. And here, if I wanted to just add in a feature, so here we're adding a shortening feature. Now from here, I can of course control the length, and then here the rotation and Y or Z. Just so everyone is aware, I'm based out of Montreal, Canada. So if you're seeing certain parts of the software in French and not in English, it's basically because I live in Quebec and based out of a French province. So forgive me for that. Once our modifications are complete, here we'll see the additional operations applied. And once I validate, it'll also compute the cost coefficient based off the new operations applied. So if I want to reactivate the feature, if there was new features added, we'll see those displays. And of course, we'll still have the feature element itself here, where I can re-access the dialog and make revisions if I wanted to. And of course, following the modifications, you can always process the root requirement analysis to see those additional features take place. Now, just to add one additional feature, because of course I just added an additional cut and it just ultimately modified the cut variable that was applied, I'll go ahead and apply an additional hole on the profile. So here, I'll just go and apply a hole. And here, of course, there's many different options. Here we can change the hole type, diameter. And then here, if I wanted to add in a different hole spacing and change the diameter, I can do that here as well. Now that I've completed my modifications, I can validate. And then we could take a look at the root requirement analysis for the additional additional operations applied. So now here I can see that drilling was taken into account. And of course, if I go under operations, we'll see another workstation and a bait being affected for that specific operation. So of course, if you have a beamline machine and it would accommodate both features, it can be handled at the same workstation. As you see here, the L-cut and the drill line is 2-in-1. They're two separate operations, but one machine is going to manage both. So if you have a Python machine or any sort of beamline, you can apply, of course, multiple operations to the same machine and take that into account. Okay, going back to the slide, another major modification that we've made is the steel range items, okay? So, of course, we can always manage steel elements within the platform, but we made some significant changes to facilitate management of steel parts and steel assemblies in the platform. The main goal of this feature was to provide our customers with more flexibility on how costs compile, how operations compile, and finishings compile to the assemblies upon import. So if based off of specific criteria, you would want a different type of part routing to come into effect for that specific type of assembly, or if it had a special paint coating, if you wanted additional operations to be applied and costs to be compiled, we developed features to be able to enable this upon import, as opposed to then having to manage it later on in the customer order in a more manual method. So there's a multitude of ways that we can manage import of data now with steel parts and assemblies through management of scripts and manufacturing sequences. So it gets a little bit technical with how we can do this, but there's a lot more flexibility in short. And the goal, again, was to provide our customers with more flexibility and to be able to compile costs, operations, production strategies, and even subcontract specific operations just by importing the model metadata and siphoning through it and aligning it with the correct manufacturing sequences upon import based off of those rules. So for this portion, it's less of a demonstration and just more of a visual aid that I'll be providing to give a greater explanation. So once I created these part components in the software, here we see the item range was SCP. What this means is a steel connection part. Okay, so it's just a part component, but this part component contains multiple operations. It contains a root item code for material. So when I say root item code, I'm talking about its original SKU, which had a specific length and cost based off of supplier information for that item code. And all this is contained into one new item called the SCP item. Okay, so it's grouping multiple operations and the root item code to compile a new cost and consolidate all necessary information. Now, here, if I were to go to items and look for this specific item, SCP, or we can look at SCA items, which is steel connection assemblies. So here, I'm going to search for that item, SCA. Here we can see two item codes. Upon executing the search, I can see steel connection assemblies and steel connections assemblies with galvanization. Now, upon importing the data from Advanced Steel or from any steel detailing solution, it's grouping all the necessary information, once again, raw material and individual operations to compile the cost. How it's doing this now in the software is by using the feature steel range items. So once you apply this specific filter, it's going to treat the object differently. Okay, this is just a side note. But then, of course, if you apply a manufacturing sequence, then here it'll link all the components and operations that are being pulled from the CAD solution. Now here you see that it's blank. How it's doing this is by affecting a specific script, which will then siphon through all the data in the import mechanism upon linking it to a customer order. This is explaining it at a very high level, but what we've done is applied more flexibility here so that if you have different variables in your CAD model, such as finishings, paint coatings, galvanization, or whatever the case is, we can take those additional variables into account to optimize the import to compute all the costs in the upfront. And last but not least, the steel item simplification. So this is a generic way of suggesting it, but what we've done is configured, changed the configuration of a few different things and then added an additional feature to facilitate creating steel items within the software. So Advanced Workshop Steel, of course, is accommodating the steel industry. And after communicating with customers, they had specific requests and how they want the ability to search for specific information and how they wanted to create new SKUs if required or new item codes if required more quickly. So we took note of all the different requests from our customers and made modifications to the UI to facilitate not only, once again, search of information, but to be able to input information into the database. So the benefit is now you have more flexibility in searching for information, and we reorganized the search tabs here and applied a few new searches to search based off of material grades and description of item, things of this type. And we also created a new feature to create steel items quickly. Now, what this item will allow you to do, or feature would allow you to do, is select the type of element. So if it's a profile or plate, you would then specify the material, the coating, and the range of item. And then you can put in multiple length units to create multiple item codes for that specific bar element. So for example, if for whatever reason you wanted to create a new aluminum shape, but it was very similar to or in size, just based off of material thickness and length. I'm going to use an angle. For example, if you had a 2x2 angle, but it was an aluminum grade as opposed to a steel grade, well, you'd want to create new SKUs for that because in the root item of the steel element, there's steel as a material grade. So what you can do is use this feature now to create a new profile and adjust the material type to aluminum and apply multiple links at once to create 3 or 4 different item codes at the same time, as opposed to having to create them one by one. So here, I'm just going to give a quick example of that. By going here to the items menu, I'll just go ahead and remove the search filter. And of course, without seeing the original arrangement of the search filters, you're not seeing anything different here, but these have been reorganized once again to suit steel fabricators' needs. And of course, there's always modifications that can be made to which filters you want to utilize. So we didn't remove any features, we added some and reorganized them in such a way, but this is always customizable, not only from a data limit standpoint, but from the filters itself. Now, if I were to create a new steel item, here now, it'll activate this new dialog where you can select either, once again, a profile or a plate. You can specify a specific profile ID. So here, if I wanted to add in a specific profile, so I'm going to select for angles identical. Here, I'm going to remove the section name. Okay, there we go. So here I have angles equal, and if I were to type in angle identical, okay, I'll come back to that afterwards. But here I'll just go ahead and use one that's unequal for now. Click OK. And next, what I can do is select the material grade. So here, just to align with the example, I'm going to select aluminum. And then here, coating, I can specify that it's raw. The range, we can put it under profiles or workshops. So the range of items is just how you're organizing your different elements. So if I didn't want this to be a part of the standard profile range of items, and I just wanted to be, let's say, under a miscellaneous category for my workshop, I can choose the ranges that I want. But these are just categories for organizing the data or your database on a whole. So we can put, once again, profiles or workshop. And then here, we can specify the weight. And here, we can select our default supplier and specify the unit type. So if it's going to be a unit quantity, if it's by weight, and things of this type. Now, what I could do is specify the name of the item code. So here, if I want to use a specific token, or if you want to see the list of tokens, here you can apply height, width, section, class of profile, profile class name. So there's many different options here that could be triggered. So here I'm going to apply a section here. So just by typing in section, like so. And then here, of course, you can always review. We could have put class instead. It depends on what we'd like there. But here I'm just going to apply section, like so. And then the description, we can alter as well. If I wanted to put even text, standard text, so here I can just apply aluminum. And then apply a different length. Now from here, we could specify the different lengths that we'd like. So here, just going to give some quick examples. And here, okay, the reason why it's defining a lengthy item code there is simply because I have too many links as default. So I'm going to now apply a new bar length. 300. Here, I'm just going to put a weight. And now here we can apply another bar length. Once again, I'll apply a different weight. Then I can go ahead and create the items. And if I wanted to, I can stay within the dialog and create additional items as I go along. And if I want to search for those items now, I can find them here in the menu. Of course, while creating them, you'd want to be specific with the item code name, more specific than what I applied here, aluminum and then 300. It doesn't tell you a whole lot about the section. But after creating the item, you can always go in and modify the long description or short description. And you can always change specific criteria of the element upon its creation. So if after I need to go and revise anything or select a different aluminum grade, maybe change the coding, I have the freedom to do it afterwards. If, of course, you make a mistake upon the item code name, you'll be locked into this specifically. So you have to go back, delete, recreate the item. But as you can see, the ability to create multiple item code lengths or multiple item codes in one single dialog and is a huge advantage. It really speeds up the process if you had to add in a series of bars for a different material grade and for other aspects of that type. So these are all the new features that we've incorporated in Advanced Workshop 2024. Again, there's many other features, settings that have been applied, and there's a lot more detail to these features that can be found in our What's New guide for Advanced Workshop Steel 2024. If you have more questions and want to see more information, feel free to request for the guide. And thank you very much for joining this session.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Tommy. And while we wait to see if we've got any questions, I did want to drop in the chat box the product page for Advanced Workshop. And also, if you guys are interested in a free trial, I will drop that in the chat box as well. All right. So yeah, guys, if you've got any question for Tommy, feel free to go ahead and drop them there. And you've got all his time, his expert time, opinion, words, everything. So is there a common question that you get about Advanced Workshop whenever someone signs up for it as a free trial or training?
It's always very specific because once there's a general understanding that this can manage multiple departments, it really depends on who I'm speaking to within the business. If they're in procurement, if they're in the design office, the questions will be different and, of course, focused on their specific tasks. So it's difficult to give a generic answer to that. But a lot of main questions I have are, what type of files can we import into the solution? How does it compute costs? Things of that type. And again, those are always very specific, dependent on the reality, right? the answer that I would give and how you could manage that said task. But the software is very flexible. So depending on the question, the answer is going to be different, but with a lot of flexibility, yeah, comes the accommodation of that, but with a technical answer. I don't know if that made sense or if that was too political, but
no, that made a lot of sense. That made a lot of sense.